Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas and welcome to the hashtag Ask Damo Show episode Christmas edition. Yes, with me as always on the wheels of steel is Morgan M. James.
Hello, guys.
Morgan, let's play Christmas. Let's pull a cracker. Ah! Okay. So as you can see, it's festive, it's Christmas, and this can only mean one thing. Well, two things. Number one, it's Christmas, and I love Christmas, big fan of Santa. And number two, Morgan went to Poundland and spent at least £6. Oh look, I've got a little jigsaw puzzle of a robin. Sick. Or rubbish. I've got a hat on, so you can have this hat. Hope everyone's having a wonderful Christmas or about to have a wonderful Christmas. So, why does Father Christmas go down the chimney? Because it suits him. What about this one? Christmas is not as much about opening our presents as opening our hearts. I don't see what's funny about that. Anyway, right. Let's crack on with the questions. Have we got some questions?
We have indeed got some questions.
I wish, you guys can't see this, but I wish you could see Morgan in this hat. He will take a picture and put this in because special is the word I would use. Right. 4 questions. Let's do this.
Are you ready for question number 1, David?
Christmas.
Christmas, that's yes. All right. How should a band create and push content over Christmas when everyone is busy with family commitments? Any ideas? And that's from Jack Epperton.
Excellent question. Jack Epperton. Good name. Excellent question. So yeah, we've had the same thing. How do you keep your consistent out there? So you've been making content, you've been pushing out there, you're starting to feel like it's building momentum, you're starting to watch the numbers grow, you're starting to see some engagement, you can see that this is starting to get somewhere. All of a sudden, Christmas comes along and you're looking at a week or 2 weeks and you're panicking. Other than a Christmassy message, what can you do to keep it consistent? Well, one, obviously, starting to plan now because you've still got a few days to get in there. But I'll tell you what we're doing. So we had to think about this because I'm not only away for Christmas, as is the entire team, but also I'm going to be away for the first 2 weeks of January because Ella and I are going to America. I've got a talk in San Francisco in a couple of weeks' time. So we thought, let's take the first couple of weeks to go traveling. We're going to go across America, finishing off in San Francisco, which is where I've got this social media talk, which I'm very excited about. So I'm not going to be around for effectively about 3 weeks. Now, I don't want that momentum to shift because I feel like we're really gaining some traction. I'm sure you guys feel the same. So what is it we're going to do? We start thinking about how we can actually make content which is easy to make, that is still going to bring value. So what I would suggest is about having a think about one type of content that you can do which is easy to edit, easy to upload, and easily consumable, just to keep the momentum flowing, just so that YouTube, for example, can still feel that you're there, still feels that you're taking it seriously, and therefore it'll keep on spreading the word. You can do the same thing on Facebook, you can do the same thing on Instagram. It just keeps that momentum flowing. So here's an idea. This is what I'm going to do. I start thinking about different things. This is an educational channel, but I also won't have the time whilst I'm away to be making long videos and edit them and putting them live. So what I can do is I can spend 20 minutes making a video, or 10 to 15 minutes. So I am going to do a video as every day as I can, and that is going to be a one-shot video where I'm going to tell a story, because everyone loves a story. And so I've got a bunch of titles in my head of things that I feel like have happened in my career that are interesting, with a message that I feel like will keep that momentum going, and I can keep on top of chatting with you guys. I can give you a reason to keep seeing my ugly face, and I can keep on chatting to you. So for example, one of the things one of the titles is going to be the day I sold BIM, and what nobody told me, the advice nobody told me when I sold BIM. So it's kind of a story and I've got a bit of a kind of golden nugget at the end of what that means and how you can implement that. Now, if you're in a band, if you're in your own little business, you've got to stay in front of people, and you've got to do it in an easy way. So yes, you can wish people Merry Christmas, but you might not be together for 2 or 3 weeks. So what is that piece of content that you can say, look, we can get together this week before Christmas and we can bash out 5 or 10 pieces of content that we can start to implement into our social media. And I would do this. I wouldn't go quiet. Do you know why? Because think about it. This flipping hat. If you think about it, okay, people finish work, okay, they've got a few days off. Christmas is fantastic. You spend time with your family, you open some presents, you have some food, you watch crappy TV, but there's a lot of time. If you look at the peaks of over Christmas period, iPads get used a lot. Phones get used a lot, not just because there's new ones, because there's an exorbitant amount of time where you can actually start to consume stuff. So I would suggest that a lot of people's YouTube consumption will go up over Christmas. I think YouTube is a big, big day for consuming content. So rather than just going, Merry Christmas, that's great, but why not have something a bit more substantial prepared for Christmas Day? Because I think you'll find Christmas Day, Boxing Day is a big, big day for consuming content. So I would, if I were you, get together before Christmas and think of things that you can knock out 5 to 10 of these videos, whether it's a story or whether it's something, a performance. Maybe you could perform 5 tracks, 1 a day, or maybe you could call it the 12 days of Christmas and have 12 different performances, or something where you can just say, look, let's get it together and let's do 12 things that we can then push out on certain days whilst we're not around. People will not mind this. They won't mind if it's pre-recorded. This is pre-recorded. It's going to go out in a few days' time. That's why we're not doing Facebook Live and Instagram Live. Ooh, it's not a secret. I won't be here, but I want to give you guys some more content. Same thing with radio show. When I used to do the radio show, we would pre-record a Christmas edition 2 or even 3 weeks before Christmas, because no one's going to be going on the radio show at 12 o'clock in the afternoon on Christmas Day. It's all pre-recorded. Nothing wrong with that. It just keeps you in front of people. So start thinking. You've still got a couple of days before Christmas to have a think about some easy, quick wins with your social media, even if it's some pictures, doesn't have to be videos, some quick wins that you can then start to push out on certain days over Christmas. But make sure you do, because Christmas is a big day for consumption. All right, we're back. I've taken the hat off because I look like a bell. So, bar humbug. Are you ready?
I'm ready, David, for the second question. Okay, the second question is from Astra Rock Official, and they ask, could you explain what you meant when you said there are so many talented musicians that don't make it?
Yes. And so I worked at ACM for 4 years as a tutor. Then I left ACM, set up BIM. I was there for eight-ish years. Then after that, I left, set up the management company of which we train musicians and work with musicians every day. So 2 things. Number 1, that means I'm getting old. And number 2, I've worked with a lot of musicians. And it is surprising. It's surprising how, I mean, I've met thousands of talented musicians, some incredibly talented musicians, but I think you expect talent to always rise to the top. And the interesting thing with talent is you want talent. You want it because it means that you have got more of a chance of being successful, because the more talent, the better. But it never surprises me how many talented musicians go by the wayside, because I think with talented musicians can come a kind of blasé attitude. It can be detrimental sometimes, in the way that it doesn't sharpen the senses when it comes to competition and ambition. A lot of the times, not always, but I have seen so many talented musicians that it really annoys me when I walk into a coffee shop and I get served by some musician that I'm like, man, what are you doing? You had it all. You look great. You sound great. You've got so much talent. But talent is the start. Talent is the foundation. If you don't build on a foundation, you still have just the foundation, a piece of land, nothing to show for it. It's what you do with it that makes the difference. And so if you rely on talent alone, it can take you so far. But I wouldn't say I'm the most talented musician, if I'm not the most talented musician, but you'll have a hard job out wrestling me for a job because I'll work harder than you. I recognize that I'm not the most talented, so therefore I will outwork you. I will out-research you. I will out-practice you. If it comes to an audition, I won't just learn the song that I'm going to perform. I will learn the back catalogue so that I become some kind of version of the bass that's been on all of the tracks together. It's things like that that make the difference. And just relying on talent alone, to me, isn't enough. And so you've got to remember that there are so many musicians in the world and so many talented musicians in the world, but there aren't that many talented musicians who are professional and reliable and lots of other words that end in ibble, and on top of that have that work ethic that they're going to take over the world, that competitive edge, that stop at nothing mentality. And I think it's when you put it all together, that's when you get these kind of world-class kind of sort of John Mayer-esque type players. But if you look at people that have careers, most of the people that I know who have really solid careers are really solid, really good players. But probably when they went through college or when they were growing up, they weren't the most talented person in the city. I think they probably were the people that were just very good, very solid, very competitive, but it was what they did with with their talent that made the big difference. And I think too much talent sometimes can be a little bit detrimental because it means sometimes you rest on your laurels and people are constantly telling you how amazing you are. And I think that can blunt the sword as such. It can take away a bit of that competitive edge. So what I mean by that is very, very simple. I have worked with literally thousands. And when I say thousands, I don't mean, thousands. I mean, the last year I was at BIM, we'd have 2,000 students. And that was 12 years into a career, 11 years, 12 years into a career of teaching. So literally thousands. And since then, we've hired and also auditioned hundreds and hundreds of musicians every year for DK management. And I'm never really looking for the most talented person. I'm looking for the person who's going to fit in. I'm going to look for the person who can do the job, which is very, very different from who can play the best. I'm looking for the person that when I'm sat next to him in a van, after 24 or 36 or 48 hours, am I going to want to jab a fork in their eye, or if not my eye? I'm looking for the person that when we're in a hole and I'm looking out at the gig and the gig's gone bad, who's going to be the person who's going to fight with me? Who's the one who's going to go down with the ship, making the biggest difference possible? Who's the one who's going to fight for the career, fight for the gig, fight for me, make this gig as easy as possible? That is different to talent for me. That to me is the X factor. That's the bit that I'm looking for. Someone who, like myself, is going to do everything that they can to make this the best opportunity and the best chance possible.
Question number 3. Are music videos still relevant in an age of streaming music? And that is from @Florian Bell.
A really good question. They absolutely are, depending on how you use them. I think we live in an age now of videos, but videos are easy to come by. We can now make a video on our phone in a few minutes. A really high-end music video, it really shows where a band is at. It shows where they've come from, what they stand for. And I think that's something that I constantly want to strive for bands to achieve. When I go on your Facebook, when I go on your YouTube, when I go onto your Instagram, that's the question that I want you to answer for me. Who are you? So what do you stand for? Where have you come from? What's your story? And where are you going? But effectively, who are you? And I don't think anything can really sum that up like a really good music video. I think if you get that right, it can make the difference. It's a similar thing to photos. I think, photographs, a really good picture of a band could be the difference between page 10 of a magazine and front page. A really, really clever, well-executed picture can elevate a band to the front page of NME or Kerrang for a band that probably should have been on page 3 or page 10 if they get it right. I think a video is very, very similar in the way that a really great video can capture everything about that band. It's what you do with it. So I've got this thing at the moment where I feel like with social media, it's about putting out content of value and then running alongside it adverts effectively. So you're leveraging what you're doing with this. And so a music video is perfect for that, because if you think about wanting to put something out on social media, probably 10% of your audience is going to see it from an organic reach. Not a lot. So therefore, how are you going to get it to the other 90%? You're going to pay for it. I know, you're shouting at me right now. You don't like that. But you're going to pay for it so that everyone sees it. But when everyone sees it, they go, oh, that's wicked. Now, you've already got that audience. That audience is there for you. They've liked your page. They've said to you, yes, I'm down with what you're doing. I like you. I like what you're doing. I like what you stand for. Tell me more. Facebook knows that, and it says, well, if you want to tell them more, you have to pay for it. So what are you going to do? You're going to pay for it. You're going to get that message. You're going to get that amazing music video, and you are going to spread the word to your audience and some kind of looky-like audience, which you've already got. But then what you're going to do is you're going to run separate ads on Instagram or Facebook, real simple ads where you can get the call to action in. If you want to do something, if you're trying to sell your EP or sell your album or get people across to listen to the rest of your album on Spotify, you've hooked them in with that video. Now what you want to do is start running these kind of real simple ads. And like when I say ads, I don't mean like traditional ads. I just mean 9 seconds of the music video, which you can cut with one message across it, which is go and listen to the rest of the album on Spotify, link below where it says learn more or listen here. You can literally click on it, it'll take you through to Spotify. Because what you're doing there is you're not doing the demand thing, which is what bands do, which bands are constantly saying, buy this, do this, go here, listen to that, watch this. You're actually just giving them it and going, we wanted you all to see this. We're just really happy with what we've done. And then people are going, oh, that's really good. And then after that saying, by the way, if you want to listen to more, there's more on our Spotify. That is subtle and people will appreciate it rather than just this, you are our fans, you need to listen to us. So I think that's where a video works really well. Content that you are prepared to push, because too many bands, my Instagram has this really funny thing where people are spending money on pushing content which out of context doesn't make any sense. To you it might, because you're making 20 bits of content, you're picking a piece of content up and you're just pushing out there, and then out of context I might see that one thing that you've pushed and all of a sudden I'm like, there's no story, there's no real reason for this, it doesn't really make much sense. What I want when that content is pushed is, I want that answer. Who are you? What are you doing? Why are you doing this? And if it is, this is our new video, we wanted you to see it, that's good enough for me. I watch it, I like it, I know more about you, you're fresh in my head, and then when something pops up and says, by the way, we know you watched the video, because you can do that now. We know you watched the video, why not go and check out the rest of our songs on Spotify? That comes together in a bit more synergy. So I don't think music videos are dead. I think music videos just need to be done in a way that gets seen. Because if you just make a music video and stick it on Facebook and stick it on YouTube, you're right. Then you're frustrated because you're not getting as many people seeing it as possible. The way around that is money. You have to put some money in. Yes, you could probably, there's people shouting at me now going, you can growth hack it, you can start putting it and going onto Facebook groups, you can start sharing it. Yes, you can do all of those things, but that is massively time consuming. And to be honest with you, whacking a tenner in is probably a quicker and easier way of doing it, just saying.
Wow.
Cool.
Your knowledge, Damian, is incredible.
Your hat is incredible.
I think your hair is incredible. Right. Question number 4 and the final question of the 2018 #AskDamon Show Christmas special is, I've heard that some covers bands charge double or even triple for New Year's Eve. Do you think bands should charge a premium rate for New Year's Eve gigs? And that is from Craig Evans.
So Craig, I wrote a blog on this, which I got a lot of stick for a couple of years back. And that blog was called, Who Can We Rip Off This New Year's Eve? Now I have mixed feelings about this. There's two things. There's premium times of year. When you're selling, this doesn't have to be a covers band. This is just a business question for me. Covers band, originals band, teaching, whatever your business is, whatever your product you're selling is, there are premium times. So for example, I'm going to use covers bands because that was for this question. Saturdays in August. If you can't get your band Saturday gigs in August, you suck, because you've got to get better, because that's the easiest time. Anyone can get gigs in Saturdays in August. Everyone's getting married, everyone's having a party, the sun is shining, money is flowing, everybody wants a band. Getting a gig that Saturday is easy. Now, getting a gig on a Saturday in February, harder, because there's a lot less gigs, but bands are still trying to get them. So you're fighting the competition, and the strong will survive. Getting a gig on a Thursday in February, now that's hard, because everyone's fighting for the 5 to 10 gigs that are around on that particular date, and there's very few gigs around. So therefore, it does make sense to charge a premium. If everybody wants to have a band on that day, you're going out for top whack. There's no reason why that band shouldn't be more at that price. And you are going to charge what you feel that you can get within reason. What I hate it when bands just double their price on New Year's Eve, because I feel like that's taking advantage. Personally, I feel that's going too far. Like, I'm going to do a gig on a Saturday, and I'm going to do a gig on New Year's Eve, and I'm going to charge twice as much because I deserve it. To me, that doesn't make any, well, I can see why it makes sense, but I wouldn't feel comfortable with that. And as for triple, I remember back in the day, that's what bands used to do. In fact, I've only ever done there's only been 2 New Year's Eve gigs or New Year's Eve nights that I haven't done a gig since the turn of the millennium. In fact, before that. But one was the year 2000. And the reason for that, one was last year, because I've stopped playing so much. But on the year 2000, Y2K, all of the musicians, because we went from the 1999 into the 2000, everyone thought this was some kind of license to charge £10,000 for their band going out. And everyone tried to get loads of gigs. And older musicians will remember this. And we started getting gigs come through for exorbitant amounts of money. And then clubs were trying to charge stupid ticket prices for people to come and party, because it was going to be the biggest party of the millennium. And effectively, they couldn't sell enough tickets, they couldn't pay the bands, and we all lost our gigs. And most of it was because bands were greedy. And so there was no need for it, in my opinion. I am all for charging a premium, but just to pull a number out of thin air and go, we deserve 3 times as much, I feel like that's ripping people off. I don't think there's any need for it. In 2008, when it came to covers, in 2008, I had a really big bugbear that commercial bands were ripping people off. They were charging £2,000, £3,000 at the time for what was 5 musicians turning up to gigs who didn't even know each other. So the tradition before 2008 was literally a band would do the marketing and they'd get a gig. And then someone would phone up and say, can you do our gig? And they go, yeah. And they just get a bunch of other musicians to turn up under the same name. Sometimes 3, 4, 5, 6 bands called that name would turn up. And so musicians like me would just be on call. So we'd turn up on a Saturday and I'd be walking in. I'd roughly know a set list, and I'd be walking in, and then you had to have this pretend thing where a drummer would kind of walk up to you and I'd be like, dude, and I'd give a big hug and I'd be like, it's Damian, by the way, and he'd be like, it's Tom, and I'd be like, okay, and we'd like pretend that we've known each other forever. And then we'd go backstage and we'd be like, right, what songs does everyone know? Is everyone comfortable with that? And what singers, what keys do you want to sing in? And we'd write a set list there and then. And these bands were charging £2,000 for musicians to just turn up and just mash out Mustang Sally. It was like, I just felt it was a complete rip-off. And so in 2008, when the recession hit, it was a chance to reset the system. And now, on the whole, bands go out with the same people in their marketing. On the whole, I understand there's depths, I understand there's illnesses, but most bands nowadays try very hard to go out with the lineup that they are marketing. And that's the right thing. And just because someone's getting married, it doesn't mean it's a license to charge them £10,000, because you can. But that's what happens. And I dislike that when it comes to the New Year's Eve thing. So it's a moralistic thing. You guys might disagree. I personally, when I've gone on New Year's Eve, I personally will charge a premium, which means if I can pay the rest of the musicians in my band a little bit extra as a bonus, I will. So for example, usually if it's in a three-piece band, I've whacked on 300 quid, maybe 250 quid, maybe even 200. So I can whack everyone an extra 70 to 100 quid each and be like, guys, we've had a great year. Let's go out in style, have a party. We're going to be here a little bit later anyway because it's New Year's Eve. Might play a little bit longer. So therefore, a band that might go out for 1,000 might go out for 1,300, or a band that goes out for 1,200 might go out for 1,500. I don't feel comfortable saying, why not? Let's just go out for $3,000 because we can. Who's prepared to pay it? But I know people out there would do that. I just don't feel comfortable giving the same product for 3 times as much or even twice as much. It doesn't feel right to me. But if it feels right to you and you want to do that, do it. I think it's literally a question of where your morals stand on that issue. But for me, I think there's a reason, I'll finish it off by saying this. I think there's a reason why some bands can get to 50 gigs. Some bands can't. Some bands can get to 70 gigs. I think some bands can get to 90 gigs. But very, very, very few bands could get to 100 gigs a year. And when I say 100 gigs, I don't mean pubs, I don't mean clubs, I mean private professional gigs. To get to 100 in a year is like something special. You are doing everything right. It means that you are ticking every single box, from the musicianship to the set list, to the professionalism, to the sound, to the experience, the whole thing. And anything past that is tough. The last year that I did it, we did 135, 137 gigs in a year. It's tough to get that, because that means you're gigging on Thursdays and Sundays pretty much all the way through the year. There's a lot of gigs. And so I think if you make those decisions where you're trying to kind of gain that much for yourself, it means you're probably going to miss the big picture. And to try and to get to 100 gigs and build your brand, I think you'll struggle if you are in that mindset. Whereas if you're there to look after agents, you're there to look after clients, I think that's why you'll go from 30 gigs to 50, or from 50 to 70, or from 70 to 100. So for me, it's a mindset. I'm constantly looking after agents, clients, and trying to figure out how we can build the brand so that everyone wins long term. And I'd rather have 150 gigs so that the guys are earning 30 grand each, rather than 70 slightly higher paid gigs where everyone's earning 15 or 16. That's my preference. So the answer is whatever you feel comfortable with, but for me, I don't like it. I don't like it when bands try and double their prices. To me, it doesn't feel right. Right.
That is it.
You crazy animals. Have an amazing Christmas. Put something out on Christmas, but take a few days. Take a few days off. Don't do a Gary Vaynerchuk and try and work your way through Christmas. Have some time. Enjoy the rest, because in 2019, we're going to do a lot of work. And so I want you to be ready. I want you to be ready. I want you to be relaxed, because we're going to smash it in 2019. And I need your help. And I'll be there to help you guys. All I need you to do is tell your friends about this channel. We are here to change the music industry, to help musicians, and to actually figure out this new music industry as it changes so fast. So if you can tell your friends, tag people in, share it, like, engage with it, be a part of this community, that would be amazing. Have an amazing, amazing Christmas. Eat too much, and I'll see you again